Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be reading Lady and the Tramp by Walt Disney. And there's the two puppies and they're eating spaghetti and they're sharing the noodles. Jim Dear and his wife, Darling, were celebrating Christmas Eve. "Here, Darling," he said, handing her a pretty box. There's Jim Dear and he's handing his wife a pretty box. Darling united the ribbon and out popped the most adorable Cocker Spaniel puppy she had ever seen. "I love her," Darling exclaimed happily. "She's a perfect little lady." And there's his wife, Darling, and she's holding her new puppy that she names Lady. When Lady was 6 months old, Darling and Jim Dear gave her a brand new collar and a name tag. "How fine you look in your new collar, Lady," Darling said. That night, as usual, Jim Dear tugged Lady into her very own basket. There's Lady in her new basket. Lady was the princess of the household. Jim Dear and Darling loved to pamper her. They gave her special treats from the table, and they always found time to play with her. Lady was sure that she was the luckiest dog in the whole wide world. And there they are, and they're playing with Lady, bouncing the ball and chasing it. But as spring blossomed into summer, Jim Dear and Darling began to play with Lady less and less. Now, they spent most of their time talking about someone named Baby. "Who is this baby?" Lady asked. "There's the puppy." And Lady looks sad that her owners are ignoring her and not playing fetch with her. "A baby is nothing but a bundle of trouble," said a husky voice. Lady whirled around to see who was speaking. It was a scruffy-looking dog she had never seen before. Why, he wasn't even wearing a collar. She looked surprised. "Who is this dog? Does it have an owner?" "By the way, Pidge," he said, "my name is Tramp. What's yours?" "I'm sorry," replied Lady, "but I never speak to strangers." "Suit yourself," said Tramp, "but mark my words," he called out as he trotted away. "When a baby moves in, a dog moves out." There's Tramp and there's Lady. A short time later, Lady heard new sounds coming from the master bedroom. Soft, cooing sounds. "Come in, Lady," Darling said gently. "There's someone I'd like you to meet." So this is what a baby looks like, thought Lady, wagging her tail happily. He's not awful at all. Why, he's almost as sweet as a puppy. And there's Lady's parents, and they're holding a new baby. And there's Lady. She looks happy to have a new sibling. Soon life in Lady's household had almost turned to normal. But one day, a stern-looking woman barged through the front door carrying a suitcase and a big basket. "We're going away for a few days," Darling explained to Lady, "and we're counting on you to take good care of the baby. Aunt Sarah here has come to help you." Two pairs of blue eyes staring at Lady from the basket. "I wonder what she has in there," said Lady. There's the two eyes she sees. Do you see that inside the basket? I wonder what's inside. And that's Aunt Sarah, and she's coming to watch Lady and the baby. Soon she found out. The eyes belonged to Aunt Sarah's cats, Cy and Am. The two cats hopped out of the basket and made themselves at home. "We are Siamese, if you please." "We are Siamese, if you don't please," they hissed. There's the two Siamese cats. Lady got the feeling that Cy and Am didn't like her, and for some reason Aunt Sarah didn't seem too friendly either. Lady watched sadly as Darling and Jim Dear walked out the door. "Oh, please don't leave me here alone," she said softly. And there's her mom and her dad, and they're leaving the house, and they're waving goodbye. And Aunt Sarah's here to watch her. Aunt Sarah went upstairs to check on the baby. As soon as the mischievous cats saw her leave, they began to turn the house upside down. Oh, look at those cats. They look like they're getting naughty. Stop that, Lady barked angrily. She really had her paws full trying to keep that goldfish in the cannery safe from harm. When Aunt Sarah saw the terrible mess, she was sure it was all Lady's fault. You naughty dog, Aunt Sarah scolded as she chased Lady from the house with a broom. Poor Lady. She had never been so insulted in all her life. Upset, she walked out of the yard. Lady didn't pay attention to where she was going, just as long as it was as far from Aunt Sarah as possible. It wasn't long before Lady found herself on the other side of town. She was far from her home and the well-mannered dogs who were her friends. Suddenly, Lady heard the angry growls of a pack of vicious dogs. To her surprise, they began to chase her. But before they could harm Lady, Tramp showed up to save the day. There's Lady, there's the mean, vicious dogs, and there's Tramp, and he comes to save Lady. Why don't you pick on somebody your own size instead of bothering the lady? Tramp shouted at the pack of dogs. Tramp fought like a tiger, and when he was through, those bullies couldn't run away fast enough. Lady thanked Tramp for rescuing her. Then she told him all about the troubles with Aunt Sarah and the wicked cats. Poor Pidge, said Tramp. How about a nice hot meal to cheer you up, he suggested. He brought Lady to the best Italian restaurant in town. What a nice surprise, cried Tony, the chef, when Tramp appeared at the back door. There's Tony the chef, and he's carrying a plate of noodles, and the puppies are happy to see the food. Tony was so delighted to see Tramp with such a lovely lady that he brought out a big plate of spaghetti and meatballs for the two dogs to share. He even serenaded them with his accordion. An accordion is a musical instrument. This is wonderful, Lady said to herself. She gazed fondly at Tramp. He's not so bad after all, even if he doesn't have a collar. And there they are, sharing the plate of spaghetti noodles and meatballs. After dinner, Tramp took Lady for a romantic stroll through the park. That night, the two dogs fell asleep under a full moon. There they are, falling asleep under the full moon. Oh, dear, cried Lady the next morning. I should have been home hours ago. Ah, forget about the rules for once, replied Tramp. There's a whole big world out there for us to explore. But who will watch over the baby? Asked Lady. You win, said Tramp. I'll take you home. Their walk was quite pleasant until Tramp spotted a hen house. His eyes lit up at once. Chickens? He cried. Ever chased chickens, Pidge? It's fun. Before Lady could stop him, Tramp ran into the midst of the clucking hens. There they are, and they're going to chase the hens. Stop! Shouted Lady. But Tramp was having too much fun to stop until the owner of the hen house called the dog catcher. Oh no, what's going to happen? Run, Lady, run, called Tramp as he sped away. He thought Lady was right behind him, but Lady wasn't fast enough. As she rounded a corner, the dog catcher nabbed her and threw her into his wagon. Tramp had no idea what had happened to her. The dog catcher catched Lady. Before she knew it, Lady was behind bars at the city pound. She was so ashamed. What are you in for, sweetheart? Laughed Bull, the bulldog, putting fleas on the butler. Luckily, a kind dog named Boris told Lady that she had nothing to fear. Dogs with name tags never stay here long, he explained. There's Lady in the dog pound, and there's the other dogs. Sure enough, early the next morning, one of the guards came for Lady and took her home. There Lady is, and she's going home. But Aunt Sarah was still upset, so she chained Lady up outside. Soon Tramp, who had been searching for Lady all night, came prancing into the yard. "Pidge," he explained happily, "I've been so worried." "Don't call me Pidge," snapped Lady. "This is all your fault. I never want to see you again." Lady felt sad and lonely. She had promised Darling that she would protect the baby, but how could she do her job if she was chained up outside? Soon it was dark. Lady tossed and turned, but she could not fall asleep. Suddenly she noticed something moving. It was a huge rat, and it was heading straight for the house. There's the rat. Lady watched in terror as the rat climbed to the roof and through the baby's window. "Woof, woof, woof, woof," she cried. Tramp came running when he heard her bark. "A rat!" cried Lady. "In the baby's room." Tramp rushed into the house. Lady managed to break her chain and follow him. Together, they ran into the baby's room. Tramp quickly pounced on the rat, and they began to fight. Tramp and the rat rolled around the floor, knocking over lamps and chairs. Finally, though, Tramp won. "Wah, wah, wah," wailed the baby, who was frightened by all the noise. Aunt Sarah was awakened by the baby's cries. "Shoo!" she cried. "Get back, you brute! Down to the cellar with you!" Aunt Sarah wasted no time in calling the dog catcher. And for the first time in his life, Tramp found himself on his way to the pound. Lady watched sadly as the wagon pulled away. Just then, Jim Deer and Darling arrived home. "What's going on here?" asked Jim Deer. "I found a stray dog in the baby's room," explained Aunt Sarah. "And your dog here was right behind him." With that, Lady began to bark and headed upstairs. "Stop her," squealed Aunt Sarah. "She'll hurt the baby." "Nonsense," Jim Deer replied. "She's trying to tell us something." Lady led them all to the dead rat that lay hidden behind the chair in the baby's room. "Merciful heavens!" exclaimed Aunt Sarah. "Good dog," said Jim Deer, giving Lady a hug. "You did your job well, girl, just as I knew you would." "But what about that other dog?" asked Jim Deer. "He was brave too. Let's see if we can stop the dog catcher before he gets to the pound." Jim Deer and Lady hurried outside. Then they hopped into a taxi and sped after the dog catcher's wagon. When they finally caught up with the wagon, Jim Deer explained to the dog catcher that Tramp didn't belong in the pound. "You really like this tough guy, don't you?" Jim Deer asked Lady. "Well, why don't we invite him to come and live with us?" he added. Lady smiled at Tramp. Then she wagged her tail to let Jim Deer know she thought this was a splendid idea. It took some getting used to, but Tramp grew to love being part of a family. Jim Deer and Darling grew to love him too. It wasn't long before he had a collar and a name tag of his own. There's Tramp with a name tag, and there's his family. When Christmas Eve rolled around again, Lady and her Tramp had some very special presents under the tree. Not one, not two, not even three, but 4 adorable puppies of their own. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to listen to another book. Have a good day.